Hello, I'm Dr. Jane Taylor, a urologist with over 20 years of experience helping men over 60 maintain strength, circulation, and confidence, without shame, without pills, and without trial and error. You've heard that it's healthy. But after 60, some intimate habits can, silently, become harmful without any warning signs. In this video, I'll reveal 7 mistakes that older men make during masturbation and how to correct them before they affect your energy, your performance, or your long-term health. And mistake number 6 is the one almost every man stumbles over. Let's get started. Before we dive into the topic, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time to hit the button and turn on the bell so you don't miss future advice tailored for men over 60. And if this video speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your feedback helps me create better content for you. Now let's take a closer look at the first mistake, something that has become more common in recent years, and that silently reshapes how your brain and body respond to pleasure. Mistake 1. Using pornography as the primary stimulus. Over the years, countless men, usually in their late 60s or early 70s, have sat across from me with the same discreet concern. "Doctor," one said, "it feels like I don't feel much anymore. It's like my body is going numb, and I don't know why." I almost always ask a simple question: how often do you rely on pornography? And almost every time, their eyes drop, not out of shame, but because they never imagined it could cause harm. You see, after 60, your brain's dopamine system, responsible for pleasure and motivation, isn't as sharp or flexible as it once was. Watching endless clips of high-speed, high-intensity adult content floods the brain with more stimuli than it was designed to handle. And when this repeats day after day, week after week, the brain adapts in the worst way possible. It starts to numb itself. This means that what you once enjoyed, the natural spark of intimacy, starts to fade. Touch doesn't feel the same. The body doesn't respond as quickly. And even if you're still physically healthy, your ability to connect deeply, to feel something real, quietly slips away. The saddest part is that many older men blame themselves, thinking they've lost it due to age. But in reality, it's not age. It's overstimulation. And if you don't rewire your brain's response system, this numbness can linger for years, even decades. So, if you've noticed a drop in sensitivity, connection, or satisfaction, don't ignore it. This first mistake might be the hidden reason behind it all. And the most surprising thing, the next mistake has nothing to do with what you watch, but where you do it, and how that environment silently harms your body in ways most men don't realize. Mistake 2. Masturbating while sitting on the toilet. This may seem harmless at first, even convenient. Over the years, I've spoken with many older men who quietly admit that the bathroom has become their private space, not just for hygiene, but for relief. It's where no one interrupts, the door locks, and routines feel safe. But what most don't realize is that masturbating while seated, especially on the toilet, does far more harm than they imagine. As you age, protecting circulation becomes crucial. Blood flow is the foundation of healthy sexual function, prostate well-being, and even your ability to recover after climax. Sitting for long periods, especially in that hunched, compressed posture many adopt on the toilet, restricts blood flow to the pelvic region, puts pressure on the prostate, strains the pelvic floor, and subtly damages nerves that are already more fragile with age. I've seen this pattern very clearly. Men in their late 60s and 70s develop swelling after urinating, dribbling, difficulty fully emptying the bladder, or groin pain, and they never connect it to this private habit. But I can tell you today, as a urologist who has reviewed tests, listened to stories, and tracked results, This seemingly innocent position can start a slow chain reaction that over time worsens everything from intimacy to urination. The solution isn't complicated, it's a matter of awareness. If this sounds familiar, consider changing the environment. Stand up, recline. Give your pelvic area space to breathe and circulate. Trust me, your prostate is silently begging you to stop squeezing it. If you found this mistake surprising, wait until you hear the next one. It's something most older men do without realizing, and it secretly reprograms the body to feel less with each attempt at pleasure. Mistake 3. Rushing the experience. One of the most common habits I observe, especially in those who've spent decades under stress, routine, or simply learned to keep everything quick and quiet, is rushing through masturbation. They treat it like a task to complete, a moment to get through, instead of something to be fully felt. But here's the problem. After 60, the body doesn't function well under pressure, literal or emotional. I've heard patients say, "Doctor, I just want to finish. I don't have time to draw it out." When you rush, you put your nervous system in a state of tension, your heart rate spikes too quickly, your blood vessels constrict, and the relaxing hormonal benefits of orgasm, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, don't reach their full potential. You may reach climax, but your body doesn't get the true reward. Instead of feeling satisfied, you feel emptier. Instead of energized, you feel drained. Worse, this pattern of haste teaches your body that pleasure is quick, shallow, and disconnected. Over time, you start to lose sensitivity, struggle to sustain arousal, find it hard to stay interested with a partner, and think it's just age. It's not. It's the habit of urgency that silently steals something far more powerful than a few minutes of relief. Slow down. Make each moment intentional. Your body is still capable of deep sensations if you give it space to feel. Breathe. Pause. There's no finish line anymore, just presence. Speaking of presence, most men don't even realize they're neglecting one of the most important muscle groups in the male body, a hidden system that controls everything from erection strength to bladder control. That's the next topic, and once you understand it, everything about your sexual health can change. Mistake 4. Ignoring the pelvic floor. Most men have never heard of it, and yet the pelvic floor is one of the most vital parts of the body, especially after 60. It's the foundation beneath the bladder, prostate, and sexual organs, the hidden engine that powers everything from erections to orgasms to urinary control. When this muscle group is weak or neglected, everything starts to suffer, silently but profoundly. I remember a man in his late 60s, a former athlete and proud father, who came in complaining of a drop in sexual performance. What he didn't realize was that his pelvic floor, once strong and active in his youth, had gone dormant. Years of sitting, accumulating tension in the lower abdomen, and ignoring this region had left him disconnected and struggling. When you masturbate without engaging the pelvic floor, or worse, by straining and applying pressure, you put unnecessary stress on the prostate and weaken the very muscles that should support it. Over time, this leads to leaks, dribbling, poorer erection quality, and reduced sensation at climax. It's not something that happens all at once. It creeps in silently, year after year. The good news, you can reactivate these muscles. Gently contracting the area you'd use to stop the flow of urine during arousal builds awareness and strength. Over time, this simple habit can restore not just physical function, but also confidence. And speaking of confidence, too much or too little activity in this area of your life can throw the entire system out of balance. It might surprise you to learn that how often you touch yourself can play a much bigger role than you think. Let's understand why. Mistake 5. Too much or too little frequency. This is a topic many older men hesitate to discuss. Some fear they're doing too much, others quietly wonder if they've gone too long without. Between shame, confusion, and outdated advice, many over 60 end up navigating a lonely, uncertain path. What I see in practice is this: both extremes can cause harm. When a man masturbates too frequently out of habit, boredom, or unresolved emotions, the body often can't keep up. Energy drops, the prostate tissue becomes irritated, and over time, it may take longer to recover, or interest in real intimacy may fade. It becomes less about desire and more about routine, which dulls the nervous system and drains vitality. On the other extreme, some stop entirely due to medication, health issues, religious guilt, or the belief that they're now too old. What they don't realize is that the body, like any system, needs regular circulation. Sexual arousal, even without orgasm, helps maintain blood flow to the genitals, nourishes nerve endings, and preserves erectile strength. When this is absent for too long, disuse atrophy sets in, desire diminishes, and the door to physical and emotional connection begins to close without warning. There's no perfect number, but for most men over 60, once or twice a week, done with presence and care, tends to be a good balance. It allows you to maintain circulation, restore hormonal rhythm, and keep the system alive without exhaustion. Remember, it's not about rules, it's about listening. With age, the body speaks softly. The key is learning to hear it. And even when the frequency is right, one common mistake can still undo all the progress. It's something most men do instinctively, without realizing it's damaging nerves and changing the very shape of the penis. Let's see what's next. Mistake 6. Using too much pressure or force. This is one of the most overlooked and most damaging mistakes I see in older men. I've lost count of how many patients have sat across from me, frustrated and confused, saying things like, "Doctor, it doesn't feel like it used to," or "It's taking more effort than ever." Behind those words, there's often a silent habit they've never thought twice about, using too much pressure when touching themselves. I understand. As sensitivity decreases with age, the natural response is to grip harder, press more firmly, or try to recreate the lost sensation with intensity. But here's the truth. Your body is trying to tell you. Force doesn't restore sensation. It destroys it. The nerves of the penis are delicate, and especially in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, years of aggressive friction, tight grips, or using objects-charged surfaces that apply excessive force can cause real physical damage. Micro tears in the tissue, loss of elasticity, even internal scarring that can lead to curvature, reduced blood flow, and pain during arousal. It's not just uncomfortable, it can permanently alter the anatomy. This kind of trauma is a silent thief. It doesn't show up overnight. It builds slowly, and by the time you notice the difference, the damage is well underway. There's another layer to this. When a man feels he has to fight for pleasure, he disconnects from the joy of the act. It becomes a battle, not care. That mental pattern alone can reshape the body's ability to relax and receive. So, be gentler. Your body deserves it, and your future self will thank you. Speaking of disconnection, there's one final mistake that goes beyond technique, beyond the body. It's something emotional, even spiritual, and sadly, all too common among older men. And it may be the most harmful of all. Let's talk about it. Mistake 7. Masturbating without emotion, connection, or intention. This is the most invisible mistake and often the most painful. It's not about what you do, how often, or where. It's about how you feel when you do it. Over time, many older men come to see self-pleasure as something mechanical, routine, empty, without meaning. It becomes a silent escape from loneliness or a dull habit, done without thought, without emotion, and without intention. I've spoken with many men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond who say the same thing. It's not like it used to be, or I don't even know why I bother anymore. The truth is, the body can still function, but the heart isn't there. There's no connection, no presence, no warmth, and that emotional distance takes a toll, not just mentally, but physically. When masturbation is disconnected from emotion, the nervous system is trained to expect pleasure without purpose. You may reach climax, but the brain and body don't release the same restorative hormones. You don't get the oxytocin that lifts your mood or the dopamine that sustains motivation. Instead, you're left with a sense of apathy, a shadow of what the experience once was. But deep down, it reinforces the idea that pleasure is something to be done alone, in silence, without joy. But it doesn't have to be this way. Even self-touch can be sacred, mindful, and affirming. A moment of reconnection with the aging body, not with shame, but with gratitude. Your body is still yours. It still feels. It still matters. Now that we've explored the 7 mistakes, let's tie it all together, because real transformation begins when you understand how to rebuild, how to reconnect with strength, confidence, and vitality at any age. Let's talk about what comes next. Not ignoring the bigger picture. Your body is still speaking to you. If you've made it this far, I want to speak not just as a doctor, but as someone who deeply respects the journey you're living. Over the years, I've seen so many good men struggle in silence. They blame age, they blame time. Some even blame themselves. But the truth is, no one taught us how to care for the body as it ages, especially when it comes to sexuality, pleasure, and connection. You just heard the 7 most common mistakes older men make regarding masturbation, and none of them come from laziness or ignorance, but from habit. Decades of doing what worked without realizing that the body, like life, changes. Slower circulation, a more sensitive prostate, a nervous system that no longer tolerates force or carelessness, a heart that craves not just sensation, but meaning. Let me be clear. There is nothing shameful about touching yourself. There is nothing shameful about seeking comfort, relief, or even joy through your own body. What becomes dangerous is when we stop paying attention, when we rush, when we disconnect, when we assume what worked before will always work. You see, each of these mistakes, using pornography excessively, masturbating in improper positions, rushing the process, neglecting the pelvic floor, doing too much or too little, applying excessive pressure or doing it without emotion, has something in common: disconnection. That's the real threat, not age, not desire, but the slow erosion of connection with your own body, your own pleasure, and your own vitality. The good news, it's never too late. Your body is still speaking to you, even if more softly, even if it takes longer to respond, even if things don't feel the same. Today, it's still alive and wants your attention, your care, your respect. Like a classic car, it needs a different kind of handling with age, and that doesn't make it less valuable. In many ways, it makes it more sacred. What to do now? Start small. Be gentler. Be more mindful. Relearn the territory of your body. Use intention, not habit. Curiosity, not shame. Stop chasing performance and start honoring sensation. Don't be afraid to breathe, pause, feel, and above all, don't stop believing that connection is still possible, with yourself and with others. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, and even early 80s transform their health, their intimacy, and their energy when they stopped seeing aging as an end and started seeing it as a change. You deserve that change. You deserve to feel again. You deserve to live with awareness, strength, and dignity, even in the most intimate corners of your life, because in the end, It's not just about avoiding mistakes, it's about reclaiming the silent power that still exists within you. And I assure you, it's still there. Now take what you've learned, apply it with kindness, and remember, your best years aren't behind you. They're in how you choose to live this next chapter, with care and love, with wisdom and with pride. If this helped, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with another man who needs to hear this message.